Hey there, my name's Tim from Fiorucci Fabrications, and I'd like to talk to you about my motor machining fixture for repairing your old Harley head. So if you work on old Harleys, you know that the cylinder heads are just getting more beat up. The machining required can often be problematic, as getting into some of those hard to reach areas, the setups can be very complicated. Well, I designed this fixture that can tilt and spin 360 to help you get into any area required to make that repair needed to get your bike back on the road. So this fixture fits all Harley heads, big twin from 48 to 99, and it also fits Evo Sportsters, so any Harley head that's aluminum from 48 to 99 and 2000 if it's an FXR. But we got one mount. This will mount your head rocker box down so you can deck the head gasket surface. And if we remove this, you can actually bolt in this plate, and this will bolt the head gasket surface down. So if you needed to make any repairs to the rocker box side, you can fit the head in both ways. You can also take this out. We got one bolt on the side, and that locks it in 90 degrees. And then we also have swivels. So this bolt will lock it in 90 degrees. You can lock it in any degree between 0 and 90, and then you can also lock it in 90. So this thing tilts from 0 to 90 degrees, and then the plate can also rotate and lock in any spot. So no matter where you need to get to on your head, you'll be able to machine it. Top, bottom, underside, the crazy angles if you're doing outside oilers or panheads. You're doing exhaust ports on panheads, which they always need them. Anywhere on this head you'll be able to get to with this fixture. So this fixture is made entirely out of 1/4" steel. It's laser cut right here in the United States, locally here in Ohio. This will be sold as a kit with all the lasered out pieces and nuts and bolts required to build the fixture. It will come with some instructions because assembly is required. Building one of these should be really simple. It's entirely laser cut, 1/4" plate, and has tab and slot construction. So this thing should just snap together like a big puzzle piece and only needs to be welded in certain areas, which you'll see in the instructions. But you can see on this sample how I'm just kind of stitching this thing together. So this thing's quickly interchangeable from one mount to the next. Like I said, this is the one that you bolt the rocker box side down, and to say deck the head gasket surface and do the counterbore on the sleeves. And you take out these 4, you're getting taper head bolts. These will be provided, and this is just going to center these in the holes. And you take that one out, and then this is going to bolt your head gasket surface down so you can get to the rocker box side of the cylinder head. And you just slip that in there. And you will typically bolt this to your head first because you won't be able to get to these bolts anymore. So both of these you'll bolt the head to it first and you'll put it in. And then since it comes off in the side, you'll be able to remove it. Say if you got more than one front head, more than one rear head that you're doing at once, you'll be able to take the heads in and out without having to change anything about the fixture when it's bolted into your mill. So you could do multiple exhaust ports without multiple setups. It should make things a lot easier for all the head work that you have to do. So Shovelhead cylinder heads are a little different. One has fins between the rocker boxes, one without. And I just wanted to show you that I put a relief in the plate, so this actually fits both. So no matter what your Shovelhead, you'll be able to use this fixture. And if it fits the one with the fins, it fits the one without. So the stack up is a little different because the studs taper down, so kind of has a lot of slop, which is not good for a fixture. And also we got to get to where the threads are so that thing can be bolted down. So I put a couple spacers, and these are just to take up the slack of the threads, but not in the slack of the plate. So this will also come with a couple machine bungs, and these will slip down and they actually snap inside, and then you'll be able to put the nut down and they take up all the slop so that this thing, it'll be repeatable, one head to the other. It should be in the same position because it's not going to have a ton of slop to wiggle all around and be like 60 thou out or something like that. One more thing I might add, you're gonna wanna put a little chamfer on the shovel head bolts. Shovel heads have different kind of shafts and mixed up threads one side to the other. And if they didn't sink this all the way down in the rocker box surface, it sticks up proud just a little bit, and it could cause you to for the head not to sit flat on the plate. So you might just want to add that, but they're all different, so I kind of left that off. I didn't want to have to put that in there if you didn't need it, because they don't all need it. But it's just something to look for. Make sure that this plate sits flat on your head. So panheads are a little bit easier. You don't have to have any spacers because the studs are shorter, so they fit perfectly with the length of this, or the size of this box. You just slip that on, and then you can actually use the nuts that hold your rocker blocks on to tighten this plate to the head so you can machine it. And all the surfaces I'm bolting with this side down to the head because it has reliefs for the pins that center your rocker blocks, and then it also has reliefs for the valve guides on shovel heads. So every time I'm putting this side down to the rocker box surface. So Evos are a little bit different since they actually bolt through and don't have studs. But they do have one stud, which will actually help you line up the holes on this plate, because there's clearly a lot of holes in this thing, so it can get complicated. So this one hole off to the side here that's not quite as spaced out on the edges, you can actually just put that over the motor mount, and then that should give you a pretty good idea of where the other holes are. So you're going to be bolting this down with 6 bolts. We've got 2 5/16 and 4 1/4 inch. You're going to find the 5/16 right here in the middle. And then we got these 1/4 inch bolts. And if you need help, just remove it and look down and see where the bolt holes are, and you'll be able to find them real easy. And where's the other one? There we go. And easy as that. How to get the Evo in there. So now I'm going to be showing you how easy it is to bolt this to the head gasket surface using this fixture. And so we're going to be using the 2 top holes here and the slotted hole at the bottom. This fits the same on front and rear heads. So we're going to be using these 2 at the top so they're across from each other. We're using these 2 are going to be the top holes on the plate, and then this hole on the bottom. And it'll be the same, like the same way, just backwards. So these 2 and that one, and the same with panheads. So I've got this facing me. And these are 7/16 fine bolts, which it'll come with. And you slip those in. And that bottom one is slotted just for the difference between the front and the rear head. This portion may also fit knucklehead. I did not actually have a set of knuckleheads to try it on though. But reading in what fits what, the head gasket surface bolt center path looks to be the same. But if you have a set of knuckleheads and you'd like to try this on your fixture, I'd love to know if it fits. And that's it. And then so now that it's bolted to this, we'll be able to drop it right in the fixture and be able to get to the top side of this. Say if you're milling a guide out, fixing a guide hole, anything like that you'll be able to get to. You're into dual plugged heads. So Evo is going to be a little bit different because their head bolts actually have studs from the cases, and they have those like weird top hats that you bolt down from the top. And so these holes are big and sloppy. We're actually going to use spacers on the inside, and these spacers will be provided. So these are just sleeves that take up the slop inside the hole, and so they're not top hats. We're just going to be using a washer from the top. We got the long ones for clearly the bigger hole, the longer hole, and then we got a couple short ones, and that's going to bolt it in the bottom. So we'll get these in here and get them started. And then we're going to be using 2 of the same holes as we did on the Panhead and the Shovelhead. And we'll be using the smaller 2 holes that are in the plate, and theirs are going to bolt in to the other side. And so we're going to stick this on. It only fits one way. So clearly I don't know, if it doesn't fit one way, it'll fit the other. You guys are smart, you'll figure it out. And so the Panhead and the Shovelhead bolted on with 7/16 bolts, and then this is going to bolt on with 3/8 bolts. And some of these spacers might be a little tight. And that's it for Evo. For you performance guys out there, I made it so you can stick a piston in this fixture. All you're gonna need to do is set up something for your specific wrist pin. Whatever piston that you're using, you don't wanna really run the wrist pin that you're gonna use in the motor. So machine something that's close, or use a junk wrist pin, and you're gonna slip the wrist pin in with the 2 eyelets that it comes with, and take these eye bolts, flip this plate over, and they slip down right in those holes. There's 2 slotted holes next to them for you to be able to bolt on a spacer. You're gonna have to do a little bit of fixture work just to make this happen, but I gave you a really good start so you can be able to modify the valve pockets to get that clearance where you need it to be for your high performance engine. So I set this up for the bolt holes to line up. It'll be specifically tailored if you have a Bridgeport. This should work with like a benchtop mill. I haven't exactly tried it. I don't have one of those, but since this tilts all around and the benchtop heads don't tilt, you should be able to use this. I'm just not sure about how much travel that you have on the Z to be able to use this fixture on your table. But if your table isn't the same setup as this, you'll be able to just put clamps in between all of these to hold this down. So I'm starting off with a Panhead, and I just wanted to show you how easy this thing could be to set up and get you into the position. We're gonna maybe just mock up like if you were going to machine one of the exhaust ports, and as you can see, this thing needs some help. So we'll get this all lined up. So I'm snugging these up, and I'm gonna show you how easy this can be to line it up for this operation. I have the chuck in here just for reference. You can see that the exhaust port will be lined up with the spindle. Clearly, if you're doing this, you're gonna probably use some indicators or something like that, but I just wanted to show you how easy it can be to tilt this into place. Okay, so since we're tilting, we're gonna be taking out the locks that hold at 90 degrees. I'm gonna leave that one in for now. I gotta take out a couple of these bolts. There we go. I'm just gonna leave that. Okay, I gotta step over. And that's all there is to it. Clearly you'd spend a little bit more time with some indicators and stuff like that to get this lined up precisely, but I just wanted to demonstrate how quickly you could tilt this into any spot. There's also the outside oiler on this Panhead. And you can take all these bolts out and then just use the center bolt, and that just rotates it on center, so you can spin it around any location without being restricted by hitting the stops of the slot. Get that kind of snugged up. And then you just need to line your bolts back up and snug everything back down. But look how quickly I was able to just indicate that in. It's probably pretty close. You might spend a little bit more time getting that dialed in, but I just kind of eyeballed it and was able to lock it down into that spot. Okay, so I showed you can fit this into just about any location, but say you want to deck the head gasket surface, and since you're just going to be on plane with the existing head gasket surface, you don't need to really tilt and everything. So I made it so you'll be able to just unbolt this and stick this in your vise. So I'm just going to remove a couple bolts. So since I'm able to remove this head without changing anything from the fixture, say if you had multiple sets of heads to repair, you could take this head off and replace it with another rear head and stick that back in, and you won't have to indicate anything. It should be, you might need to turn it a little bit. I would check it just to make sure that it's still perfect, because also it might change versus the year range. I'm not exactly sure about that, but I know you'll be pretty damn close. But if you take this off and say you wanted to do the head gasket surface, both of these fixtures are able to fit into a curved vise on parallels. And then so you could just tram your head to your actual vise and work off of that surface instead of having to rely on this being perfectly flat. So as you can see, this kit offers you a lot of options and is incredibly versatile on the positions that it can get into to make the machining job easy. You saw how quickly I was able to just change this around to make my setups line up, and how much time I clearly saved by not having to make anything special or tilt the head. Also the repeatability of being able to just remove one head and bolt in another and not have to change anything and be able to start the machining process over again. This thing's it's a huge time saver and will definitely increase productivity if you're machining old Harley heads like this. So if you watch this video and you purchase one of these fixtures, I'd really love to see some of the stuff that you were able to repair or wild modifications that you did to your old Harley head. So please send me some pictures. And thanks for watching.